Hi everyone, my name is Tegan and today I'm going to show you how to make all the recipes in Tears of the Kingdom. I've had a great time exploring the map and figuring out what the recipes were. So I'm going to go through one by one and I'm going to show you and talk you through how to create each of these recipes. So there is a fun way of being able to get recipes for free. And it is a little bit of a spoiler, so close your ears if you don't want a spoiler on that. However, if you do finish the Llewellyn Fishing Village and you do restore that after getting rid of the pirates and a few other side quests, you will then have access to the cook. And every day she'll give you a recipe that you have not got. And I was kind of using that every time I would play through to get a new recipe. And you'll see as we go through them that they're kind of bunched and they're grouped. So when you get one, you can kind of figure out what the next one is in the segment. So to start at the beginning is the mushroom skewer. Now all that takes is a mushroom. As you can see, I've been trying to experiment, so I've got a lot of different combinations, but essentially all you need is a mushroom and then you're good to go. The next one is a meat and mushroom skewer. In the name, meat, mushroom, so you just need one piece of meat, one piece of mushroom. As you can see, I experimented a little bit and I still ended up with meat and mushroom, so you don't need to waste your meat, just one piece of meat, one piece of mushroom, and then you're golden. The next one is the fish and mushroom, and it still follows that same pattern. One fish, one mushroom. No need to waste your fish or your mushrooms. Even using crabs resulted in fish and mushroom. But next one is the meat skewer. The meat skewer, I tried multiple combinations. As you can see, I put milk in there, I put cheese in there. I wasn't trying to make the meat skewer, but I ended up making the meat skewer. But for the meat skewer, all you need is literally one piece of meat, and then that's what comes out. The next thing is a fish skewer. You can probably guess this one is a fish, any type of fish. I was trying to experiment a little bit with some recipes and still ended up with a fish skewer. So you just need one fish and that's all it's going to be. The more fish you chuck on it, obviously the more recovery you get. So you saw that up the top I get 10 plus recovery because I was using that specific fish. Now the next one is the seafood skewer. Now with the seafood skewer you just have to put whatever qualifies as seafood, which is a snail or a crab, and you cook that by itself and it will put it onto a skewer. The next one is copious meat skewers. Now these ones are quite hard. They were hard for me to figure out because I couldn't figure out what else goes on a skewer. And I was trying all these different vegetables and I was trying all these different things. But essentially what it is you need to put 4 different types of meat. So as you can see in my combination, my history, I've got the prime, I've got a whole bird, I've got the thigh, and I've got the gourmet meat. And then below that, up there, you can see that I put the thigh, the drumstick, just the meat, and then like the prime and the gourmet. But I essentially only really needed the 4 to get the copious meat skewer. Now the next one is the seafood. It follows the exact same pattern as the copious meat, and you just need 4 different types of fish. So as long as you put 4 different types of fish on, you are golden. Next up is the steamed fruit. Now the steamed fruit, because it's steamed, you need like a vegetable or you need a flower or a herb along with a piece of fruit. But you can't use tomatoes because you'll see the next one is the tomatoes. So as long as you've got a herb, a flower, or a vegetable, minus the tomato with a fruit, you will get steamed fruit. The next one is steamed tomatoes. Now steamed tomatoes, as the name suggests, tomato, and then the steamed element is the herb, the flower, or the vegetable. Steamed mushrooms, same business. So as you can see, I was trying multiple things, but I could easily do it with just a mushroom and a herb, which are very, very, very plentiful around Hyrule. So you can do anything like that. Next up is the steamed meat, same vibe, any piece of meat, and the Hyrule herb, or the flower, or the vegetable, anything like that will work for you as well. Now next up is the steamed fish. The steamed fish follows the exact same pattern, and it is fish, any type of fish, plus the herb, the vegetable, or the flower. So that's that section there. The next section is the sauteed section or the fried section. So with this one, all you have to do is cook a hot pepper, a spicy pepper, and it will work. You have to cook these in the cooking pot, by the way, because there are different ways to get some recipes that don't always involve the cooking pot, but every one that I've mentioned so far involves the cooking pot. The next one is the sauteed nuts. Now, the sauteed nuts, you just have to put any type of nut. You don't have to put them both. You just have to put one. It'll work. The next one is the wild fried greens. Now, to get wild fried greens, you just have to cook a vegetable, a flower, or a herb. I went a little bit extra, cooked 4 vegetables, and I got a really good effect, speedy effect. But as you can see, you can just literally cook anything, any of like the vegetable, the flower, or the herb, and it will result in fried wild greens. Now the next one is the copious fried wild greens. Now with that, you actually need to cook 4 different types of either vegetable, flower, or herb. I put a fish in there, I don't know why, but it worked. It worked. Now the next one is the cooked Stambulb. Now the cooked Stambulb, you just cook a Stambulb. I went extra and put 2 extra ones in. I thought I would get copious amounts of Stambulbs, but literally just 1 is all you need, and then that will work for you as well. Buttered Stambulb is butter and a Stambulb. Now the next one after that is the copious mushroom skewers. Now with the copious mushroom skewers, like the other copious ingredients, you need 4 different types of mushrooms. I went extra, added a 5th, but you don't have to do that. You just have to have 4, and then that one will work for you as well. The next one up is the spiced meat skewer. Now this all involves the Goron spice, which you can get in the Elden region in the general store. They have to restock and replenish after a blood moon, but you can always go there just to restock and grab some more spice, because a few recipes do actually call for you to use the Goron spice. So with a spiced meat skewer, you just do the spice and the meat. Now there's 3 different tiers of meat. There is the normal meat, then there is the gourmet, the prime meat, then there is the gourmet meat. So you've got these 3 that you need to use, and all it is the type of meat plus the spice. So that one, and that one. Now the next one is a crab stir fry, which is all you need to do is get a crab and put the spice, and it will work. As you can see, I used a different crab and a spice, and I got the exact same thing. Obviously different effects because the crabs have different values and add different effects when cooked. Next up is the meat and seafood fry. So the meat and seafood fry essentially requires you to use 1 raw meat and 1 raw fish. I went a little bit extra and tried different things, but as you can see right here in the middle, just literally using 1 fish and 1 meat will result in this recipe. So that's all that you require. Now the next thing is the prime meat and seafood fry, which is essentially exactly the same, following the format of meat, prime meat, gourmet meat. So all you need to do for that is 1 raw prime meat, and then you need to use 1 fish. It doesn't really matter about the fish. You just have to worry about the prime meat, the gourmet meat, or the normal meat. Next up is the gourmet meat and seafood fry. So with that one, all you need to do is follow the same thing. You need to get the gourmet meat and then a piece of seafood. You don't need to use 2 fish. It's just 1 and 1, and then you'll be good. Okay, so with the salt grilled greens, all you need to do is combine a flower, a herb, or a vegetable with salt, and that will result in the salt grilled greens. Next up is the salt grilled mushrooms, following the salt grilled vibe. It's salt plus mushroom. Same with the meat, followed by the prime meat recipe, followed by the gourmet recipe. Then there's also the salt grilled fish, which is the salt and the fish, salt grilled crab. You don't need to be extra like me and add the extra crabs in. You just have to do 1 crab and the salt, and it will still have the exact same result. So next up with the herb saute. All you need is Goron spice combined with a flower, herb, or vegetable. Then with the fragrant mushroom saute, it's also the Goron spice, but it's with the mushroom. So with the pepper steak, you just need a raw piece of meat and a pepper. So essentially, you can use any type of meat and a pepper, and it will result in this recipe. With the pepper seafood, you need a spicy pepper and a fish, and that will work also with crabs as well. Now next up is the fragrant seafood stew. Now with the fragrant seafood stew, you need a Stambulb, you need an oil jar, and you also need a fish. Next up with the deep fried drumstick, all you'll need is the drumstick and the oil jar. And that's going to be the exact same for the deep fried thigh and the deep fried roast bird. So essentially you use that part of the chicken and you add oil. The seafood, I don't know how to pronounce this, so I'm not even going to attempt to do it because it's just going to be jank. Essentially, it is the recipe that was in Breath of the Wild. It was in one of the Rita Village side quests. And essentially, all you need for this is a piece of seafood, the wheat, and the goat butter. You don't need anything extra. I was trying to do other recipes, and it resulted in this, which is why I've got so much history in this tab here. Next up is the porridge of this jank word that I don't know how to pronounce. It is essentially the wheat, the goat butter, and then you need a porridge as well. And that's the same with the salmon. So essentially, when you do the seafood one, you just need a piece of seafood, except obviously don't use the porridge or the salmon, or it will result in these ones. Next up is the fruit and mushroom mix. So with the fruit and mushroom mix, you do need to have one bit of fruit and one bit of mushroom. You don't need to do extra, but as you can see, I've got multiple different mixes, and you can see in the middle here, it's just an apple and a Hylian shroom, and that works the absolute treat. So next up is the simmered fruit, and with the simmered fruit, you literally just need a piece of fruit. You don't need anything else. It's very, very, very simple. I've just made it very difficult for myself, but as long as you cook a piece of fruit, it will simmer. Next up is the copious simmered fruit. Now you need to cook 4 different types of fruit, and that will result in the copious simmered fruit. Simmered tomato is using the tomato, and then the fruity tomato stew is when you use the tomato, the milk, and the salt. And then next up is the tomato mushroom stew. You just need tomato and mushroom, put them together, and that will work. So as you can see, different combinations result in the exact same thing. The tomato seafood soup, it results from tomato and a bit of seafood. So as you can see, I've done a few different combinations over there, but we don't really actually need all that extra stuff. So for that, you just need the tomato and one bit of seafood. Next up is the cream of vegetable soup, which requires one piece of salt, a milk, and a vegetable herb or flour. So next up for the veggie cream soup, you just need a pumpkin or a carrot combined with milk and salt. As you can see, the 2 different histories here, and it will result in the veggie cream soup. Then after that, with the cream of mushroom soup, the cream of mushroom soup is a little bit more complex. You need mushroom, rock salt, fresh milk, and then a vegetable flour or herb. So I've got the mushroom, I've got the salt, I've got the milk, I've got the herb. I didn't really need to add the extra mushroom in, but I did. The creamy meat soup is meat, rock salt, milk, and a vegetable flour. So as you can see with the soups definitely have that trend of having the salt and the milk in it. And most of them, for these extra ones like the mushroom soup and the seafood and the meat, you'll see that they all share the same ingredients except for the main ingredient. So it's very easy when you go and you get one of the recipes to figure out what's next to them. So to move on, the creamy seafood soup is seafood plus salt plus milk plus a flour, herb, or vegetable. And then next up is the snail chowder. So with the snail chowder, you need goat butter, you need fresh milk, you need snail, and then you need Tabantha wheat. For the creamy heart soup, this one is so cute. You need a hydromelon, you need a vault fruit, hardy radish, and then fresh milk. And then you get the creamy heart soup. For these next recipes, you will need coarser bee honey, and you can get that in a few places. I will show you after we go through all the recipes where you can get them, and I'll link them below with timestamps so you can just like jump forward to find where some of these ingredients can be found easily. But essentially all these next ones are going to require you to use a bit of coarser bee honey. So for the glazed veggies, use the honey, plus you also use a vegetable. For the glazed mushrooms, it's a mushroom and the honey. So with the glazed meat, it's a piece of meat and the honey. The same with seafood, seafood and honey. Then we move on to the next series of foods, which is the curries. And the curries do involve the Goron spice. Now, with this one over here, you need to use rice and the spice. So you combine that, you'll get the curry rice. Then for the vegetable curry, you have to use the rice, use the spice, and then you add a vegetable. Meat curry, rice, spice, meat. And then there's the 3 tiers of meat here. So we've got the meat, the prime meat, and the gourmet meat. So next up with the poultry curry, you need the raw bird drumstick, you need the Hylian rice, and then the Goron spice. Now, I went a little bit extra and I added in fish and all this extra stuff, but all it did was result in the poultry curry. So you need the smallest of the poultry to get this one, because as you'll see, then you get the prime. So it follows the meat, the prime meat, the gourmet meat. So we got the poultry, we got the prime poultry, which is the thigh, and then you've got the gourmet poultry curry, which is the raw bird. So all of these have that small bit of meat, plus the rice, plus the spice. Then we move on to the seafood curry, and the seafood curry is any seafood, the rice and the spice. So as you can see, there's a lot of themes throughout these sections. Next up is cheesy curry, and you're gonna guess what I'm gonna say. Cheese, rice and spice. Then we go into the stews. The stews are the next section. So you need any of the carrots, goat butter, fresh milk, and Tabantha wheat. So in the next stew section, the Tabantha wheat, the goat butter, and the milk, they're all going to be the ones that you are going to be adding in every single time. They're the base ingredients. Pumpkin stew, there's our three, the goat butter, the milk, and the wheat. Add a pumpkin. Meat stew, there's those three again, the wheat, the butter, the milk. Add in a normal bit of meat. Don't worry about the spice. I was trying to be fancy. It didn't work. It just gave me a meat stew anyway. Then you got the prime, then you got the gourmet. So you can always follow that. When you find one that's like that, it's always a good practice to try the different tiers of meat. Then after the gourmet meat stew, you then got your meat stuffed pumpkin, and you just have to use a pumpkin and a bit of meat. That's also from Breath of the Wild, if you had played that one before. In the risottos, there's always going to be the salt, the butter, and the rice. Now for the vegetable risotto, you just need any carrot or pumpkin, and that will do the job. For the mushroom, it's any mushroom plus the rice, the butter, and the rock salt. Salmon, 3 base ingredients plus salmon. Crab, 3 base ingredients plus crab. Now the cheesy risotto is a little bit more of a difficult one because the picture doesn't even show that there are fish or mushroom in there. However, this recipe does call for you to use any mushroom or fish, but you cannot use the hardy salmon because otherwise it will result in the salmon risotto. So you need to have a fish or mushroom plus the rice, the goat butter, and the salt plus the cheese. Then that works over there. Now next up are the pilafs. Now with this you got the poultry one, the prime one, and the gourmet one. Now the base ingredients in the pilafs are the rice, the egg, and the goat butter. So you do those three, try the 3 different tiers of bird, and then you've got that one happening. So next up we got the seafood paella. So you need to use any of the porgies, any of the crabs, the rock salt, the butter, and the Hylian rice. And then for the curry pilaf, you need to use the goat butter, the Goron spice, and the rice. Next up for the fried egg and rice, all we need to do is rice and egg. As you can see, I was experimenting with other recipes and I always kept coming back to the fried rice and egg. All I really needed to use was the rice and the egg. Next up is crunchy fried rice, which is any meat, plus the egg, plus the oil jar, plus the rice. For the seafood fried rice, so we've got a little bit of rice theme happening at the moment. You need to use any porgy, the rice, and the rock salt. Then for the crab omelet with rice, you need to use the egg, the rice, the rock salt, and of course the crab. For the meat and rice bowl, you then have to use raw meat. As you can see it coming up, the theme happening, the meat, the prime meat, and the gourmet meat. So all of these follow the same core ingredients, and it's just the tier of meat that will change. So for the meat and rice bowl, use rice, salt, and then the normal meat. We then use the next tier, which is the prime meat, and then the gourmet meat. And that will result in those 3 recipes. Then we've got the cheesy meat bowl. Now that is essentially a meatball, just add cheese. So it's the meat, the rice, the salt, and the cheese. As you can see, follows the same thing. So you do the exact same thing, but with prime meat, and the same thing with gourmet meat. The next thing that we're moving on to is the rice balls. Now with the rice balls, you can see that I've done a lot of different combinations, but the most basic combination is this one here. So it's essentially rice plus a vegetable flour or herb. Now with the mushroom rice balls, it is the rice plus the mushroom. Then for the meaty rice balls, it is essentially raw meat plus the rice. So as you can see, there's a lot of different combinations that resulted in this, but all you really need is a piece of meat and the rice. It doesn't matter what tier of meat it was, as long as it's meat and rice, it will work. Then we go on to the next one, which is the seafood rice balls. And essentially it calls for you to use 2 types of fish plus a bit of rice. So I've done a few different combinations. There could be other combinations. We could potentially use crab. I'm not 100% sure because this is the way that I've gotten it. But doing the 2 types of fish plus a bit of rice always results in the seafood rice balls as well. Next up is the porridge. It's one of a kind. So with the porridge, all you need is a vegetable, the rice, and the milk. As you can see, I did extra, but here you've got the vegetable, flour or herb, and then you've got the milk and the rice. Next up is wheat bread. It's just wheat and the rock salt. Then we got the melty cheese bread, which is the bread plus cheese. So the wheat, the salt, and the cheese. Next one is my favorite. I love pizza. And this just looks so good. With the Hylian tomato pizza, all it is the wheat, the cheese, and the tomatoes. Next up for the meat pie, you do need to have the wheat, the butter, the salt, and any piece of meat. Then for the fish pie, same deal. You have the wheat, the butter, the salt, and then you can use any seafood. So that's snail, crab, or fish. Next up is cheesy tomato. You just need to use the tomato and cheese. So as you can see, there's a bit of a cheese theme happening here. We've got the cheesy baked fish, and the cheesy baked fish is any seafood plus cheese. Then we move on to the omelet section. So there's a few omelets coming up. Now with this omelet, there is a lot of ways you can come up with this. But essentially, you just need to cook a bird egg and you'll end up with an omelet. Next up is the vegetable omelet. And with the vegetable omelet, you need a bird egg, you need the rock salt, you need a vegetable, flour or herb, and the goat butter as well. For the mushroom omelet, you need any mushroom, a bird egg, rock salt, and goat butter as well. For the cheesy omelet, we're following the core ingredients. So you have the goat butter, the rock salt, and the bird egg. However, you need to add in a mushroom, vegetable, or flour, and the cheese. Now we go up to the hot buttered apple. With the hot buttered apple, you just need to use an apple and goat butter. You can see that I tried multiple combinations, seeing if I could get golden hot buttered apple, but it didn't work out for me. Next up is the honeyed fruits. So you need to use that coarser bee honey and with any fruit besides the apple, because next up is the honeyed apple. So when you do the honey plus the apple, you get the honeyed apple. If you just cook the bee honey by itself, you'll get honeyed candy. And then we move on to the fried bananas. And with the fried bananas, you need to use the mighty bananas, you need to use the cane sugar, and you need to use the wheat. You don't actually need to use the goat butter. As you can see, I was kind of experimenting around, and you only really need to use the one banana as well. Next up is egg pudding. With the egg pudding, you need to use fresh milk, the bird egg, and the cane sugar. Then for the plain crepe is essentially the wheat, the cane sugar, the milk, and the egg. Now that's going to be the base ingredients for the rest of these crepes. Because next up we got the wild berry crepe, which has those 4 ingredients plus the wild berry. Honey crepe is those 4 ingredients plus the honey. Now we move on to the nut cake. Now the nut cake is essentially an acorn or a chicory tree nut, so any of the nuts, plus the goat butter, plus the cane sugar and the Tabantha wheat. So you can see that there's a bit of like a cake theme happening over here. And for the cakes, we've got the butter, the wheat, and the sugar. So for the fruit cake, you need those 3 ingredients plus any fruit, wild berry or apple. I just put the wild berry and apple in just to be safe. For the carrot cake, you need the cane sugar, the Tabantha wheat, and the goat butter, plus any carrot. Same with pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie kind of falls into the cake category. So it's those 3 ingredients again. So you got the cane sugar, the Tabantha wheat, and the goat butter, and then any of the pumpkins. Then we move on to the cheesecake, and the cheesecake is the cheese, plus the wheat, the cane sugar, and the goat butter. Now we move on to the fruit pies. So we're kind of in the pie era. And over here we've got the Tabantha wheat, the cane sugar, and the goat butter, plus any fruit. Then for the apple pie, as you can see, I was experimenting just a little bit. I thought we had to put like the honey in or something like that to make it sweet. But we didn't actually need to do that. For the apple pie, you just need the apple, the wheat, the cane sugar, and the goat butter. Then we move on to the egg tart. And at the egg tart, we have the bird egg, the Tabantha wheat, the cane sugar, and the goat butter. And that concludes all the cake kind of recipes. We then have the milk. And for the milk, you need to just cook the fresh milk, and that will result in hot milk, the milk. Noble Pursuit is from Breath of the Wild. And so if you have played that, you will remember the recipe for that one. You have the palm fruit, the hydromelon, the vault fruit, and the rock salt. Then we go into the monster categories, and these use the monster extract. And the way to do the monster stew is you need to use the extract, any meat, and any seafood. For the monster soup, it's the extract, the goat butter, the milk, and the Tabantha wheat. So you'll be able to see, as we went through the recipes, the stews had the common ingredients, the soups had the common ingredients, the curries had the common ingredients, and the rice balls had the common ingredients, the cake. So you're going to notice that these common ingredients happen. So when you find something of a certain genre, it's always good to try all the different substituting ingredients to see if you can unlock different recipes. So we have the monster stew, we've got the monster soup. We move on to the curry, which is the rice and the Goron spice with the extract. And then we've got the rice balls as well, the monster rice balls, which is the rice and the salt plus the monster extract. The monster cake, which is those 3 cake ingredients, the wheat, the butter, and the sugar, plus the monster extract. Now you're going to see the exact same thing. So you saw that we just went stew, soup, curry, rice, cake. We're going to do the exact same thing for the dark stew, soup, curry, rice, cake. And the only difference is the monster extract is swapped out for that little dark clump. So after that, the next thing is the dubious food. Now that one is also from Breath of the Wild, and you just have to cook something that doesn't go. It just doesn't make any ingredient. Cooking just a cane sugar worked. Anything that's just jank. Rock hard food is actually a favorite of mine from Breath of the Wild, specifically in master mode when you're doing trials of the master sword. You just use your bomb rune to just chop down all the trees. And then when you get to that little section in the middle where you finally get a cook pot, you just cook all your bits of wood and you'll end up with rock hard food. And I know it only gives you a quarter of a heart, but it does add up, especially in the trials of the master sword where there is no regeneration, no armor, all that kind of thing. Especially on master mode, it's very, very, very brutal, but it's very rewarding to do. So if you haven't done that, I would recommend you doing that. Now the next section is pretty straightforward. It's baked apple, all the baked. There's a lot of baked things happening. Now essentially to do all these baked things, you have to cook them on an open flame. So like an open fire. So just use a bit of wood and flint, smash it together, make a flame. Or if you've got a campfire with you, don't drop it in to the cooking pot, drop it around it. And essentially you just have to drop these ingredients in: an apple, golden apple, pepper, tomato, wild berry, vault fruit, hydromelon, palm fruit, bananas, lotus seeds, mighty thistle, amaranth, swift carrot, endura carrot, fortified pumpkin, the sun pumpkin. If you don't have the sun pumpkin, you do need to do some side questing to eventually get that one. We got the roasted radish, the big radish, the sky shroom, the Hylian shroom, the stamella shroom. We've got the rush shroom, the sun shroom, the chill shroom, the zap shroom, the razor shroom, iron shroom, silent shroom, bright cap, endura shroom, hardy truffle, big hardy truffle. And then we go to the seared steaks, all the different types of meats. As you can see, those 3 tiers, the 3 tiers of the poultry as well. And then we go through all the fish as well. So there's all the different types of fish that we've got going on here. We've got the arowana, the bass, the trout. We've got the carp, the porgy, the cave fish. And then you have to do the hardy ones too. You have to do the hardy bass and the hardy salmon, the crab and the snail. Then you also need to do the tree nuts. So you got the chickaloo nut and then you got the acorn. Next up is the campfire egg. That is the last of the open flames. So you put that one over the open flame and it will result in a campfire egg. Now the next one is the hard-boiled egg. Now, this one's a little bit more funny in the sense that you need to drop it into a hot spring. And when you put it in the hot spring, it will eventually boil and then you can pick it up. The next section is the icy foods. Now, to get these ones, you need to drop the ingredients on the floor and then you need to hit them with a frozen arrow. So you need to cook them in the snow. So you got the icy meat, prime meat, the gourmet meat, all the poultry as well, and all of the fish. So you do all the different fish, including the seafood and the snail as well. You won't need to do all the fruit and vegetables for this one, or the mushrooms. So with the elixirs, you essentially need to combine a bug or an insect or a creature along with monster parts. And the strength of the monster part is going to determine how long that effect lasts for. And the names of the creatures will have a nod towards what kind of elixir it can create. So the different types of elixirs you can have are the energizing elixir, which will restore your stamina. You've got the hasty elixir, which makes you go fast. The spicy, which gives you the low level warming effect. You've got chili elixir, the electro elixir, the fireproof elixir, mighty elixir, which gives you more strength. You've got the tough elixir, which is the defense. You got the sneaky elixir, the sticky elixir, the bright elixir, the enduring elixir, hardy elixir, and the fairy tonic. These are all cooked over the cooking pot. So if I go into my materials, you'll be able to see some of these ingredients and insects that can be used for the elixirs. So we've got the summer wing butterfly. So as you can see behind me over here, it's going to cook it in, you cook it with monster parts to create an elixir that makes you feel warm and fuzzy. So as you can see, we've got the restless cricket here. So that's going to give me the stamina elixir, the fireproof elixir, sticky elixir. So it's very easy. The hightail, so he's fast, you're going to get a speed boost. So it's going to be the hasty elixir and so. So you've got the sticky frogs, you've got the tireless frog, which is the stamina one. You've got the hot-footed frog. So it's always good to read these descriptions because they do nod to what you can create. So you've got all the beetles and you've got all the darners and then you've got all the fireflies as well. So you can use all of these different things. Beetle does sell a lot of these insects and creatures as well if you can't find them out in the wild naturally. They're all in different regions. And yeah, that is all of the recipes. Now I'm going to show you where you can find certain things. I always find it good practice to go into the different villages. So if you go into the different villages, if you go into the Rito village, you can always just check the shops and you're always able to just buy ingredients there. So in the Rito village, you can always go into the general store and they'll always have oil for sale. You can get goat butter, you can get your cane sugar here, and you can also get your Tabantha wheat. Now, I always like to go somewhere else for my Tabantha wheat, and I'll show you where that is right now. If you go into your map, down near the Lucky Clover Gazette is essentially where you want to go. I usually use this shrine, the launching device, as a warping point. This shrine's actually also really useful as well. It has unlimited rockets, so if you do market and you want to just make multiple rocket shields, you can go in there and the rockets respawn. You don't have to go up to the gacha machines and you don't have to trade in your materials to get rockets. So you can just get unlimited source of rockets here. It's very, very handy. So I usually will go to this, area and I will warp. I'll usually just fly all the way down here straight off the side of the shrine and I'll head in the direction of the Lucky Clover Gazette. Now, essentially what you're looking for is some grassy area. So you can see the grass right here. Anything like this in this region. So you just pull out a sword. As long as it's a blade, you just start hitting the grass. And as you run through the grass, frogs will appear and also the wheat will appear. So if you've got the patience, you can see there's a froggy there. Another frog. Oh, wait, get back here. Gotcha. But sometimes when you're lucky, you can get some wheat. Now you can hold in the weapon, do a little bit more of like a hit, and it will clear a bit more at a time. Depends what you want to do, if you want to just hack and slash. So you just run through this wheat over here, or the grass over here, and hopefully, come on, as luck would have it, this game is making me an absolute liar right now. Come on. Oh, there are frogs here. There we go. We finally got some wheat. But frogs are more likely to spawn.
There's some more wheat there. And we hit that over here. Come on, wheat. There we go. There's some wheat. Now, your best bet to getting apples and golden apples are in Satori Mountain. They are scattered throughout Hyrule, but they're in mass population in this section here. I like to warp to this area right here, this shrine, Missing Pathways, because there's a massive field of apples to be picked, but there are also some jank trees, so you need to Shrek them immediately. So as we warp into here, as you can see, there's heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of apples. You can just come and hit them, and you just pick up all those apples. Excuse me. The apples are just in abundance in this section, especially golden apples too. So you can see that there are golden apples up there. There's all the apples over there. There's another golden apple there. There's more apples here. This is also really good if you're wanting to do a low heart run and you just need a ridiculous amount of food to eat every single time. You can just grab heaps of golden apples, heaps of apples from this section. And you can also gather a lot of wood if you want to have some rock hard food. Now, next up is the sun pumpkin. The sun pumpkin is a little bit more of a difficult ingredient to acquire because it is locked behind a few side quests. I won't spoil anything. However, I will tell you that if you are looking for that, do a lot of the side adventures in Hateno Village. There's a lot of things to be discovered there. And once you do a few side quests, there's a little side quest that nods to Majora's Mask, which is my favorite Zelda of all times. It's a very, very, very fun quest to do. It reminds me of the cow quest, if you are familiar with Majora's Mask. And essentially, after you do that, you will be awarded the opportunity to get the sun pumpkins. Next up is the cheese. While you're also in Hateno Village, there is the cheese up here. So if you're in the pasture, there is a lady who will trade you milk for cheese, or you can just buy the cheese outright. And there is also a man that stands outside the stable during the daytime when he's awake, and he'll trade you the nuts. He'll trade you nuts for milk, and you can just pick up all the nuts from in the forest behind their pasture. So that's always good to go there as well. Also check out the shop in Hateno Village too. That's also very, very handy. So the Goron spice is always in the Elden region. So if you warp, I usually use this shrine to warp towards the Goron city. And then I just glide straight down to the shop. And there's always Goron spice in stock. If it's not in stock, you've already bought it out. Wait for the next blood moon, it will restock. So as we warp into the shrine, you can then just do a cheeky little glide all the way down to the shop down here, which is the general shop. And you can jump in. I love the Goron region. So cool. I love the music and the soundscape. So we've got the Goron spice here. I'm going to buy them all, why not? Why not? Thank you very, very kindly, sir. So if you're looking for the dark clump, without spoiling story, I would strongly suggest you investigate the gloom hands that come out of the ground and chase you. It's absolute nightmare material. Investigate them. And hopefully you'll come across some dark clumps. Monster Extract, it's quite a fun one to buy. I like to buy that one in Tarrytown. So I go up here, and this is the closest shrine, the proving ground for the vehicles. That's the closest one I like to warp to. And then I just go down to Tarrytown. And the little merchant there, he sells Monster Extract. All right, so when you warp into the shrine, you can then see Tarrytown. And if you don't have access to the Tarrytown shop, just try and do a few of the side quests around there. Side questing does give you access to a lot more of the game. And Tarrytown is very, very fun to do. It's a nice, fun sequence of side quests. And there's some good rewards and benefits from it. So your shop is down here. Whee, thank you. And you can get yourself some Monster Extract along with some arrows, some Dazzle Fruit, some Bomb Flowers, which I am desperate need of, actually. I'm going to grab them all. I need to go find some, actually, in caves. So the next thing that's really hard to find, I actually am personally finding it so hard, is the Sneaky River Snail. Now, I spent a substantial amount of time trying to find these little jankers. I was searching far and wide. I was told to look along the beach, so here I am running along the beach. At nighttime, they glow a lot easier and they're easier to see. But one thing that really worked for me, and I marked it, as you can see with this beautiful heart on the map, if you do travel to the Poplar Foothills Skyview Tower, go directly south, and there's a few little shallow water, and I found them there. I've marked them there. They are my favorite spot to find them now because I was trying to get all the recipes and I knew it was the snail, but I couldn't get the snail because I had none to collect. So I had to get my last recipe, and it was that janky little snail. So it's very evasive. I thought I would stumble across it in my gameplay, but just could not find my way. So we're just going towards this section, going around the monsters. We do not want to party with the monsters. All right, so here are the little puddles that I was talking to you about. So you'll see all these little sections. There is a Lizalfos that is guarding that section. So you may want to sneak around and just jank him a little bit. He's a little bit curious. All right, you know what? Just jank this guy. Get out of here. Goodbye. Now, usually he'll be guarding some snails. If you are there at nighttime, they will actually glow. So there's one there. Beautiful. Now, with the crabs are usually along the beach shores. I didn't really have a problem finding the crabs. The snails were actually a lot harder for me. The other one that you're going to need is the bladed rhino beetle, and you're also going to need the rugged rhino beetle. Now, those ones are for the mighty elixir and the tough elixir, and they're going to be in a very specific spot. So for them, I actually like to go down into the Ferron region, which is where I am right now, but I do like to warp right near the stable, and I go to this section right here in the Burnus Forest. So for this one, you're going to need to be sneaky because any movement that is fast or jumping, it's going to scare them away immediately. So they're very hard to spot. You got to be very much on the lookout. It's like playing Where's Wally, but in Hyrule. And when you see them, they're on the base of tree trunks. So you move quite slowly. Make sure you're using the meter I'm actually in front of it right now. Whoop, other way. I'm actually in front of it right now, but you can see your sneak meter. You want to keep that line as flat as possible, or just wear sneak gear, sneaky armor. And as you as you sneak through this section, you should be able to pick up where they are. They do like to be on the side of this massive log as well. You just got to keep your eyes peeled. All right, so these bugs are indeed rare. So it does take a little bit of time to find. They do like to be around these guys though. I have tend to found them quite often there. You can also get your bananas here too. So once again, the game is making an absolute liar out of me, even though I got 3 or 4 beetles from this section. All right, so I feel like I have taken all of the beetles out of there, and I think I have to wait until the blood moon happens for more to respawn, but I promise you that they are here. They definitely are here, so you're just gonna have to trust me on that one. In order to get the honey is found in a lot of forests. The one that's nice for you to go to is near the East Hill Chasm. It's in this kind of overgrown section. Okay, we're getting a blood moon right now, so I feel a little bit more hopeful about the beetles. Hopefully everything restocks. You can see some bird eggs up there as well. That will be very useful for some recipes as well. But as you run through this section, there will be Yiga Clan. Let me grab them. So, just actually above, above the Yiga Clan, you'll see the bees. And essentially all you need to do is you can shoot it down with the arrow, but the bees will attack you. It's not really that big of a big deal. The other way that you can do it, if you would like to, is you grab some flint, you grab some wood, alright, put them on the floor, start a fire, and then what you want to do is you'll get a wooden, watch me not have a wooden thing to grab, club? No, that is not flammable. Alright, what I'll do... Oh, there we go. It's on fire. So you can actually smoke out the honey. Okay, well that's not working, is it? Oh, it did work. Jokes, it worked. And when you smoke out the bees, you then can collect the bee honey. All right, I'm going to try one last time in this forest. I'm going to try one more time to find these beetles. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the blood moon has actually resulted in more of them spawning. All right. Cross your fingers, cross your toes. Hopefully, we get these jank beetles. All right, coming down. I really hope that they have regenerated. There they are. See? On the branch, on the stump right there. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you are as quiet as possible. So you can take that one there. Sometimes you don't really have to jump or run for them. It may have just been a coincidence. There's one. See how I ran towards that and it just ran away immediately. See, there's one over there. They always tend to hide on these branches. Take it. Beautiful. You just got to keep your eyes and ears peeled. There's one up there. One of the gold ones. So you need to be sneaky. You sneak all the way up there. And then we climb up. Oh, there was one down here. There's a rugged rhino beetle. Literally down there. A bladed rhino beetle. Oh my gosh, we got the trifecta on this tree. What a beautiful tree. Perfect. This is the tree that we all want to be on. Now the game has not made me a liar. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very, very much for watching. And good luck on getting all your recipes. I'd love to know what your favorite recipe is. Let me know. Mine personally is the pizza. If there's any other videos that you guys would like to see, let me know. And I'm more than happy to try and see if I can provide that for you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'll see you later. Bye.